Yep.
September monthly. So I pulled a few cards that is going to be pretty much for all of us. Maybe our messages, maybe our general reading for basically this transition. And it's kind of like really telling to me. It starts with Milky Way. It was the first card that came through it, and it kind of like really got me giggling because I am rewatching those series through the Wormhole with Morgan Freeman. So if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like really interesting to really see how basically that physics interact with most likely even our spirituality, and how we are comprehending those, I mean, additional or alternate realities, right? Because as you know, Earth is the part of the Milky Way, but Milky Way has probably billions, you know, it is probably one of billions of galaxies that we actually know in the universes that we are absorbing, right? It has, I don't know, billions, probably 400 billion stars, and it is the one that is the closest to the sun. And it's kind of like interesting because they have managed to, everything that you see in the sky is basically past. You're not seeing the present because it takes time for the light to come and reflect. So everything that we see is not really what is going on in that moment. So it's kind of like a concept in itself that kind of like we need to kind of like wrap our head around. So this, it's kind of like really interesting for this month because we are going through basically Virgo transition and actually also Libra, so I can see actually both kind of like sending their own messages, right? So this is really telling us to regain our perspective. Maybe we strayed away, maybe we kind of like lost gravity, maybe certain people don't gravitate toward us or we don't gravitate toward them, right? It simply kind of like it is time to possibly step back and then allow ourselves to detach in order to kind of like gather information, right? And it's kind of like going into that internal aspect of ourselves that kind of like observes life instead of life basically happen to us, right? It also is basically telling us to look at things from different point of view, from kind of like understanding that, hey, we are part of this big universe, right? We kind of need to kind of like understand not only where our position is, but also how everything can affect us and how maybe even the small emotion can affect the entire basically universe. So it's kind of like really interesting because the next time is dream time, and this is kind of like this beautiful story. And I know that the Australians are going to correct me because this is talking about the Aboriginals of Australia, right? And this is basically their place that exists before time. So it's just like when I saw these cards coming out, I was really giggling because this also talks about how basically Earth was formed, right? And they're talking about that they had this ancestral ancient ancestral, what is the word, spirits that kind of like remained in the kind of like very forms that was created, so including all these animals and hills and stars and all this kind of like other features that we kind of like see around us. It's basically kind of like basically continue to present today their gods, right? So this is really talking about our either individual but also I believe group spiritual template that kind of, in particularly in this card, talks about things that have been passing down from one generation to another. So we are talking about at least 60,000 years, although those aboriginals would say they existed since the beginning of time. So in one those traditions, right, there is this creation story that is involving this Daijiraidu, which I think it's pronounced, and correct me if I'm wrong, this kind of like hollow, right, log that kind of like emits kind of like woo, that kind of like droning sound when kind of like is being played. It's kind of like really nice. It's kind of like really gets you into this vibration, and you kind of like really start feeling that connection when you hear it. So, you know, kind of like it is again time to kind of like sink deeply and understand that sort of like you are that crossover between spirit and physical reality. So it's like a breathing, comes in and comes out. What are you letting in and what are you letting out? Maybe it's going to be kind of like some kind of realization, because this is very much like Hermit card. It talks about solitude. No, it doesn't talk about loneliness. It really talks about the quality that we need to have in order to kind of like understand that, you know, sometimes we need to pull things inside of us to understand, express our own creativity. Maybe something got stuck. Maybe there was like sort of like stalemate. Maybe for some reason certain things couldn't happen. Maybe they're not part of the big picture, right? Because it could be that you're talking about a person. This is this card called Loyal Heart. And it's kind of like really amazing to really see, because as you know, Libras are always kind of like thinking in those terms, right? That, you know, there is like this royalty. And what I really like about this card is like that these two owls are actually looking in each other's eyes. So there is like this big heart, and there is like this big understanding between the two of them. This kind of like I really feel was more or less talking about us personally needing to reconnect. Maybe we got disconnected. We need to reconnect and understand how our actions are affecting other people. That also, even on the lonely island, the tree is going to grow and be magnificent, and nothing is going to stop, not even a storm, because the light always can be found, right? Maybe we need to find Loyal Heart. Maybe that is what is happening, because I really think this is really addressing the later part of the month, but that's maybe some kind of like self-understanding that we need to kind of like come to. Maybe this is really talking about our partnerships and friendships and romantic relationships, right? Maybe they have some qualities in common. It is really good to kind of like see this, because part of this reflection is going to be, this is the mirror of me, right? So this is really talking about also us being dedicated and devoted back to our friends, to kind of like express that faithfulness. And I really think it's going to really be all around, kind of like understanding that maybe we pushed too far or we didn't do enough, and kind of like coming into this balance. It is kind of like really, really interesting, because this is telling me that your kind of like long-term loyalty to your goals is going to become kind of like very evident in this world of conditions where, you know, all our aspirations for success kind of like sometimes assume form kind of like in reality, but success is nonetheless looks like taking shape, and it was inside job over here. From what I see, we kind of like really need to kind of like in all this kind of like process stay flexible, because if we are inflexible, what do you expect to come out of that process? We kind of like have to kind of like come to this kind of like bigger perspective that is basically talking about here. So I really would not advise any kind of like stubbornness of any kind. Now, interestingly enough, that we did get here Thunderbolt and the Outsider. None of them is a good card. So it is really telling me this is that basically Tower card. But here, as you can see, lots of people are jumping off instead of from Tower, from here. This is really telling me about ego death. It is really telling me that we need to shed some aspects of ourselves that maybe we were like really holding on for such a long time. Maybe we kind of like felt as an outsider. We could always maybe meet people who would always keep us, you know, some kind of like foot away, or kind of like it was always a distance that we couldn't somehow overcome, even if we tried it. The truth is, like, this came reversed. So this is telling me that maybe something is happening, that we are even clueless about something, because we all build our own egos, we all build our own life. It's basically all this house of cards. It's like all that ego stuff, where especially we are getting really like more and more kind of like divided with choices, and we don't have any more universal news and universal things, and we keep looking for things that will reinforce our basically already viewpoint. And this is really telling me that this is something that you are needing to really deal with. Maybe this month you want to kind of try to just to listen to something different, attend to classes that otherwise you wouldn't attend, kind of like really talk to people who are much different. Because look at this card. Hello, hello, who came to say hi to everybody? Say hi, say hi here to camera, that's it, pretty girl, walk up. So this is kind of interesting, because some people don't like when my kitty cat Sapphire comes over here, and you know, this divining, it's all about observation and it's intuition. Intuition usually kicks in and clues in when you are really observant of this perspective. And this perspective is like, this is what happened. Just like as I was saying, some friendships and some kind of like love relationships will become coming to you to acknowledge that. Just like Safi jumped in, said hi, and I love you. And I really think this is like something we can really look forward. I think there are some conditions though, and these conditions would be few things that we really need to figure out. Also, maybe what obstacles we have created, and if this is a really big deal, or how to really kind of like get off that high horse, how important we are, because we live in really strange times, right? And this card, as I was just about to say, look at us through this fence, how beautiful these colors are. And of course, this little child looking inadequate, it's kind of like looking what is out there. I really, really want to be there, and what's going on. Maybe the child is in the garden and looking out, but maybe looking into something else. Now, I think the key in this picture is this basically chain. And look at this chain. It is opened. It doesn't take much to really take away this chain. So now these two cards together, what do you chain yourself to it? What kind of beliefs are you holding that maybe need to be released? You have to figure out if something that you were really holding as really important, this is who I am, without this I cannot live. Try to shed all these kind of like core principles to a minimum, and you will see how, you know, you're going to really be able to embrace more people as well as to be embraced. So this is kind of like a general part of the reading, and now we are going to go in the individual signs. Guys, I still have the speed up promotion. Still, if you order your own reading, you will get it much shorter. So instead of 3 weeks, you're getting in a week for the regular one. Instead of 1 week for a rush one, you're going to get it in 3 days. And urgent, it used to be 3 days, now it's like 24 hours. So kind of like make your pick, and you can check it via my website, cattarot.ca. And guys, let's not forget that there is a contest going on where you can win a 15-minute reading with me. Part of it is like leaving comments over here on Facebook or on Instagram, and that's going to be one winner a month that I'm going to pull from basically all of these guys. But there's going to be a much maybe faster way if you come to my live, which is every Saturday at 11 o'clock EST. You need to comment so we know that you're there. Just say hi, and you know, some of the moderators are going to kind of like make the pick. They can call it any time. You have to be present in order to get the award, and you get this like 15 minutes with me, and from that point you will just need to contact me and you're all set. And of course, nothing beats private reading. This is just your energy and me, and we are really looking down and trying to find not only what's up, but also what is the best way out of it. And this is it. Let's start with this month's Taroscopes. Hi Taurus, and welcome to your September monthly. So let me just first of all say, check your ascendant, check your moon sign. If you're cross watching, check their Mars sign. In the description you will see the link to a free natal chart, so you will see all these elements that we all have inside. So as you have seen during the shuffling, a few cards really kind of like jumped. So you're getting this engagement card, and you're going to start seeing that I'm not reading most of these kind of like inscriptions on the bottom. But this card is really talking to me, not necessarily just a love engagement, but kind of like more. Maybe there was like something that you have been really hoping for, but it looks like that you had interaction with someone. So that kind of like simply would be that you have been engaged by someone. It could be a fire sign, could be a water sign, could be air sign. I see 3, but fire sign and water sign are sort of like love strongly resonating. The judgment card, the karma card, and this kind of like comes out frequently this particular month, is really talking about cleaning the slate. Like certain things from the past are repeating. Maybe you want to get engaged, somebody else just like wants to play the field. Maybe you want to get engaged, but somebody else is like so much fun that you kind of don't want to let go of them. It's going to be really a month where you're going to really test your own strength, your own conviction, what you really want. And for some of you, this could mean moving forward. For the others, as I can see, unrequited love and the magician, it could maybe be a completely new beginning, a completely kind of like move away from someone. And this is one of those seal inscriptions over here. Unrequited love to me can happen in many different because of many different reasons, and I generally always look the cards up to the first major ones, but this is you, King of Pentacles, just hiding behind that. Maybe you were a sleeper for a while, maybe somebody let you down, but even if that's the case, it looks to me that you're still going to give another chance. Yeah, if nothing else, to clearly understand their motivation, or maybe clearly understand, hey, what have I done wrong? You see, if somebody sat down with Thomas Edison and told him, well, you know, this is what you did wrong when creating a light bulb, maybe he wouldn't need to have that many kind of tries. Well, it's not as easy with love, as you know. It's not really that one kind of like size fits all, but nonetheless, I think you're fully understanding that certain dynamics don't work for you, and at the same time you're really acknowledging somebody's kind of like personality, and that's kind of like really open-minded attitude. So let's kind of like put the cards down, and I'll be telling you my little cat cards as we go along. Look at that. Release your ex and the new love. Lovely. And chemistry. You guys, I'm not worried about this unrequited love. Maybe, you know, sometimes somebody rejects you and you feel it's the end of the world, and then the next thing you know, you meet somebody who's like so wonderful. Look at that. That's interesting. That kind of like overshadows everything else. Absolutely. It looks like to me, guys, you have been dealing with somebody dishonest. Maybe somebody was leading you on. Maybe somebody was promising you this engagement, and it's kind of like hitting you that's not going to happen. So you're giving yourself a present of moving on. I think that's simply a present that, you know, maybe healing needs to take place, but nonetheless, when kind of like that whole cycle is done, look at this 888 you have as well. Wow, talking about cycles, there it is. This is the Earth card, the world. We are talking about kind of like these perpetual motions that we keep going through these cycles, but each time it's better, or we hope for the better. So each time we can actually bring more knowledge and more understanding. this rat over here. That will be you. I guess they had all this like kind of fire, earth, kind of like water and air elements. Well, I don't know why they picked rat. You kind of like, well, you're picking, like you can as well pick. Well, I guess they cannot pick Taurus because the kitty cats like rats, and that was probably the reason behind that. So let's start. Like having like this 888, like it tells me that something is connecting to that Lion's Gate, which kind of like opened up last August. And it was like sort of like a shift in relationships, and we are seeing that on a global scale going in all directions. We are seeing those radical groups becoming more radical. We are seeing you know, people committing again or not willing to commit at all. So it's kind of like energy is going in all directions, almost like some kind of like big bang happened. And so like now this explosion is going everywhere. And the best way to deal with that is that you kind of like find shelter and understanding what is it you need, and two, sort of like that you see that somebody's going in the same direction as you do, because this is really telling me that there was like some kind of dating, and maybe something in the past ended with you know, something that could have been beautiful. I really kind of keep seeing here somebody, like you have a Queen of Wands, you have the Sun, and you have the Fool. Look at this. Look at this is in the past. You started this whole process, and this month you're going to finish something that you started. Can you see this? This is the starting of the major arcana. This is the ending of the major arcana. And the ending, as I told you, it's kind of like, well, we are starting a new cycle. Karma accomplished. This is extremely powerful, guys, reading. I don't really have to even go through any of the other cards. Like, to sum it up, somebody was really basically promising a whole bunch of things. The Sun, it's like also this beginning, right? So look, you have been charged into, oh my gosh, I feel great. Like there was like this playful energy, and a playful energy going, hey, I want to get married. There was like this connection with marriage, with birth, with children. And then we had children somewhere here that I think I've seen children. And there it is. The children is here as well. But then that something went into a phase of, oh my God, OMG kind of a thing, right? It's kind of like, instead of like sailing in this direction, here enters the karmic lesson, right? That's why the Judgment card showed up here. You see, kind of like moving on from something. Yeah, we move on. We can break up with someone. We can realize it's status quo. We can realize the person is not changing. It doesn't mean that we ended our own analysis, our own comprehension of the situation. Which kind of like I see here, this is absolutely calling for you to kind of like find yourself and repair yourself. This to me is always a card when somebody is doing something dishonest, when somebody is kind of like taking things away from us. They know that they shouldn't, kind of like that thief kind of energy, if you really wish, right? It's the person who knew the right from wrong, but you really trusted this person. You had unbelievably arms open, full trust. This could be at home, this could be at work, this could be, you know, like, I mean, your property, your family. It's kind of like somebody robbing you of that trust that you extended. It's basically where most of us get jaded, right? And this card really frequently suggests that presence of dishonest people who basically take advantage of the situation. You know, you may have been dealing with somebody like that. That's basically what Seven of Swords is talking about. And Knight of Swords and Six of Flowers. Yes, there was like some harshness. Look at all this air that I see here. Knight of Swords is like the truth that comes out. You know, when we say the truth hurts, well, it was hurting here, and as a result of that, kind of like ended the relationship. Again, I can see here a lack of commitment. Maybe you have been with somebody for a significant amount of time where you've really seen yourself, and then something just like fell apart over here. That's the energy of some Tauruses that are coming here. And then this is like in the heart of your reading, their children. This is like kind of walking this tightrope. The reason why I said, like when I shuffle these cards is like because, check these two cards out. Two of Swords and Eight of Swords. Both kitties are blindfolded. And these are the only two cards. And look at how many more, plus the ones on the table. So why are you getting that? They're like something you didn't want to see. Maybe you thought you're staying in a relationship because of the children. Maybe somebody else is staying in a relationship because of the children. So you are singing one tune and not realizing the reasons why people commit, right? Maybe certain things just like couldn't progress, going back to this unrequited love. Like look at this kitty here in a tree, kind of like not knowing how to get out of that situation. So it was a situation that was possessing some kind of like creating some kind of like challenge. So here you have like Three of Wands, and there's the King of Swords. Some of you may have been going through legal processes and going in a new direction and turning back. I mean, this is like the essence of turning back that I really see here. And turning back, going into something new that you're really not happy about going into. And that's basically simply how one of those karmic lessons can work and look. You are kind of like having your chart, you know, your plane ticket, you know where you're going, and all of a sudden, like you're ending up somewhere else. It's just like, think about it as kind of like the episode of any, basically, of these series that you see. It's because something unpredictable happens, and that's what life is. That's what they say. What John Lennon said, life is what happens when you make another plans. So something here could be debatable. You were still trying to make something work, but this really keeps telling me that there is a situation that maybe even had lawyers and judges involved. It could be a fight over child custody, but it simply could be realizing intellectually that kind of like this is not going anywhere. You guys are very pragmatic sign, you're earth sign, you are really not wasting your time. So the four signs that find it the easiest to get out of a bad situation would be exactly these four signs over here: Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, and Leo. They kind of like get it that the structure takes forever to build, and if somebody is eroding the structure, then they're eroding what you're building, and it's not going to work if one is going upstairs, another one is going downstairs at the same time. So it is kind of like really difficult, and maybe this is all happening this month. It's going to be something that does have a challenging opportunity. I think the attraction is there, but there is also full of jealousy. There is like uncertainty. There is like fear. There is like denial. Maybe somebody is like straying out of relationship. In any case, you're getting the Hermit, and you're having here the Ten of Pentacles, which kind of like you are kind of like orienting yourself toward your family, toward your home, and trying to kind of like think through the situation and just try to find your own answers about the situation. So you did have here this Three of Wands. Here you have like Two of Wands reversed. So attraction and passion is there. It could be that there was like this person who maybe kind of like just the whole affection fizzled away over a period of time. And maybe on their side, maybe kind of, this is kind of also interesting card, because like we have this one wand bolted. This one here represents also emotions of the past. The other one that is standing here is like the communication. So it looks like something here did not lack in passion. It more or less lacked in communication. And again, relationship have so many layers and so many those Lego blocks, and if you kind of like damage any one of them, you know, the turbulence can happen. And there you go, the turbulence it is. Did we not have in the introduction of the cards? We had the Thunderbolt, and we also had this card, Solitude. So I think your energy is really, really coming through extremely strong, right? So I really kind of like, where was this? Here. Really kind of like we need to kind of acknowledge this Thunderbolt. This is also understanding. That's kind of like getting it. It's kind of like, yeah, I have the passion and I have this, but I am not sure if I can continue with this. There. Six of Pentacles. Remember, this entry card was like Five of Pentacles. So kind of like Five of Pentacles is being an outsider, and this is kind of like what it is for you. Passion is there, but other than maybe in those moments that you're with someone when you're kind of like in that passionate embrace, are you really feeling that you're belonging there? Because this is really telling me, like, Six of Pentacles is always the card about giving and sharing and interacting, right? And it's kind of like where we need to learn to be generous, but not stupid. And kind of like it's good to give, especially when you have something to share. But if you give to somebody who doesn't respect it, then you really didn't accomplish your lesson. There is like the proverb that says, don't give them the fish, teach them how to fish. So that's kind of like a much bigger thing, and that's kind of like what basically this card is really talking about, right? It's kind of like how are you position yourself in the relationships, that, you know, it has to be measured how much you give out, but it also, you need to measure if you are kind of getting the input back like from them as well. Now, it's really telling me that you actually have been going through some kind of lessons that are kind of like bearing fruit. Pay attention to the red flags. Well, maybe too late. Maybe now you're saying to yourself, just if I pay these attentions to these red flags, right? Just if I've seen it, that tower, that kind of like thunderbolt, that storm, and even in this card, that island, we also had sort of like storm coming. But we can focus in this picture on the storm, but we can also focus, and I don't know if you can see it, you can see this like ray of light coming right through, and that's the light that we have to let into our own kind of like universe. This is not necessarily a bad card, because it's saying this kind of like end of one phase, and I can literally see this. You know, when you buy a gift, it's great, hey, I have the gift for so and so, but you still want to wrap it, and you still want to put a bow on it. So these are those final touches, and this really means the worst is over. If you're suffering, guys, it's going to get better, and it's going to get even better because you have learned now what signs maybe you did not want to see. You just went through the do not go sign, and we all have been there, and almost like in all relationships all the time we repeat that. But like now you're seeing that certain things really were not helpful to you. And there you're getting the stars and the Emperor. So there's like situation that is really asking you to ground yourself. So these like lion gates is like also opening up to commitment, what commitment means to you, and understanding in the other people. It looks like that kind of like was an issue all along. Maybe you felt unaccepted. Maybe you felt locked out from somebody's world. Maybe you felt that they were gaslighting you, that it was kind of like hard to get perspective in a relationship. Like, you know, we are always generals after the battle, right? I play a game, bridge, and it's kind of like weird, like while you're like holding the cards in your hand, people tell, oh, you should do that, like, I mean, but the point is like they don't see the whole set, and they don't see the reasoning behind it. So jumping to conclusions before you see everything is difficult, and this is the whole idea, who is successful in life, who isn't, because somehow you end up making good choices that are stringing to a good solution when you're successful, or vice versa. You, however, are making a lemonade out of the lemons that are kind of like given to you, because the star is like this like newfound hope and healing. You still need to work on maturity or inner maturity. This might not be you. It might be people you're attracting. It might be kind of like, look, I cannot heal that people. They are going to continue doing that in my life anytime. And people are people, but I can heal myself. And if these people take away from me that I trust, that I will work out okay, that I will end well, then they're really stealing from me, right? That's kind of like where we are. So at the same time, you're like really working on that kind of like engagement, that you are not jaded and you are not disappointed, and at the same time you're absorbing all these lessons to kind of like move forward. And move forward it is. Make the effort. Great love is worth taking the steps. These are the steps, in your case very pragmatic steps. So what is pragmatic when it comes to dating? Well, if you're with someone, well, then maybe you need to talk about things you need to talk. Relationships are one big long exercise in frustration and negotiation. But you need to kind of like speak up. Sometimes we blame on the others, but did we really speak up? And that's kind of like one of those things, because we see here in Eight of Pentacles a kitty that is kind of like putting the final touches on something that kind of like needs to work. Maybe something kind of like needs day-to-day effort. Here you have the karma card. Maybe sometimes you need to kind of like, that's what I said, if something is wrong you need to speak up. That's kind of like the cards. This is the second karma card you're getting. When the justice kind of like comes reversed, it's kind of telling me that maybe you feel that certain efforts are futile, that no amount of effort is going to get anywhere, that you are just carrying everything. That's going into, again, victim attitude. Okay, so you can say, listen, I kind of like feel that, remember this like giving and sharing lesson that we had over here? That's exactly it. Make the effort. But if somebody is like not meeting you halfway, or they're not transparent, or they're letting you just like pick up the bill, or and I don't mean it only just like in a material way. I mean, you do all the housework, you do all the entire childcare. Well, then they are not kind of like doing their share, and you're going to call it. It might feel a little bit, and that's kind of like the part I think of this lesson, kind of like looking deep inside what works for you, what works for the family. And maybe like some situations are completely unworkable, but what is workable is like your realization of how to move forward. Because here, yes, you do want to make an effort in a relationship, but not at any cost. If the price is too high, you're going to call it. Because look at that. Release your ex. Looks like the exes will be still visiting and knocking on your door, telling you, well, I love you. So time to release. This doesn't mean you're getting rid of the person. It could mean, and it could mean that here as well. Sometimes you could read of someone, and some more advanced souls kind of like spend some time thinking and say, holy smoke, am I like an idiot to lose her, to lose him? And then they come back knocking. So 8 of Wands and Queen of Pentacles and 6 of Wands. I don't think you're going to like really... They still want to come back, but they don't want to commit. That's what I see. They kind of like want to have the last word. Be very, very careful about that. So you see, people are people. They just don't like losing. And relationships are not about losing. So this is what might happen. They are going to kind of like tell you a whole bunch of stuff you probably want to hear. Maybe invite you on a fantastic date. It could be very kind of like sexual thing. But then again, you're not going to commit. And you're going to go back. Maybe that's why it is. You're going to feel like, what the heck? And then all of a sudden they're going to disappear. Because I can see here, options are opening. New love, new options. So some of us really will need situations like this, okay? Which part, I need to repeat to you to learn. And at this point, this month, is going to be really self-evident who is staying, who is going. The 7 of Cups and Knave of Cups and Ace of Cups. Maybe you're not ready. Or maybe you're opening new directions and closing these old directions, because look at these cups, cups, cups. It's, in the category of your hopes and fears. So you're absolutely hoping to go in a new direction. Maybe you're fearing that you'll be rejected, that certain things will not work out, or as I said, it kind of looks to me naturally that somebody, because that's why we have the Queen of Pentacles over here reversed, that somebody is just like willing to just come there and just like look victorious and not to kind of like take the fall, which looks like they really took it really hard, and hence that love is really not love coming from them, right? You guys really should open up to dating, whether or not you're still dealing with someone or not. If this relationship has challenges and if you are turning every stone, this is really calling for you to have clearing and not to really take matters in your hands. Sort of like if somebody is really not respectful, let them go and start really dating. You don't have to commit, even though you do kind of like know what you want. If somebody asks you, what do you really want? Well, I want commitment, I want engagement, I want marriage. This is like really clearly that this is what you want. But also you want somebody who is right for you. So I can see here possibly Aries, possibly Leo, possibly water signs coming in your basically life, with whom you actually really resonate really well. So this is kind of like karma accomplished, the world. You have Knave of Wands and Four of Swords. It's going to be a really tiring month for you. You will not recognize yourself, guys, at the end of this month. It's going to be lots of work, lots of deep work, cleaning the old issues and letting them kind of like go. It's kind of like releasing the stuff. It's just akin to confession in the church, where, you know, it's like kind of like facing your own fears, facing your own stuff. And as I said, something might be really shocking this month, so shocking that you're going to feel like it's taking you off your feet, of your own equilibrium. But you're going to do really well. You're going to have complete good assessment of this entire situation and what is the best for you here, Taurus. So that's talking about that perspective, right? I have picked one more card, but again, guys, please don't forget to also check your ascendant and your moon readings. In the description you can find the link to get a free natal chart, so you will see what is your ascendant and your moon, and also if you're checking for somebody else, their Mars. So the card that you got from the Enchanted Map, little kind of like, I call it like a storybook, because I like to read from it and not to really interpret that, is wishing well. And it's, look at this, like a stump and something growing, and that's exactly what I see. And I think you have reached a huge growth, being that number 11, this month number 11. This is like really, really big, because this is year number 11, this is month number 11. So it is like that healing energy that kind of like is going to be really important. So wishing well. Desire is the sacred impulse for life. Feel it, but let go of all attachment to ownership. Desire is the most important impulse for creating life. Now you're seeing the relationship between desire and inspiration, and sensing that moment of truth when you feel the inception of new life. It is an aha moment when everything makes sense. Absolutely, you're going to have that aha moment this month quite a few times. Perhaps you recognize a soulmate, or you're conceiving a baby or an idea. The Wishing Well card awakens you to the presence of unseen forces that enable new beginnings. New beginnings, absolutely. Divine intelligence activates the field of possibilities where new life is co-created in a magical way. Neither you nor everyone else can know how or why this happens. It just does. To that end, you can't control the process of growth. Rather, you must step aside to be a channel for higher forces and relinquish any attachment to how this new creation should appear or when. Form your intention and take action by dropping the coin into the wishing well. Then trust in spirit, prepare to be amazed. So it's kind of interesting that perspective is going to be also perspective on where you're positioned and how you're positioned, and you're no longer willing to kind of like be kind of like outsider. You kind of like are opening that chain, you're opening that gate, and kind of like you're going in a new direction, knowing that this new direction is the best for you. So my dear Taurus, this is taking us to the end of your reading for September. So if you are not subscribed already, please just click subscribe, like, and share. And I hope to see you on Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's like 8 Pacific Standard Time. So we have this live reading. It's your chance to win a 15-minute reading with me. Also, if that's not a possibility for you, then just like come and join my social media, my Facebook. All the links are down below, my Instagram, my Twitter. And I'm going to pick one as well every month for free reading. So it's an opportunity, especially for those who never had one. It's a healing experience. It's not really, oh, well, tell me about so and so. Like, well, let's kind of figure out the reasons so you can kind of like better conceptualize how to go forward. So thank you, Taurus, for your time. Greatly appreciated. And it would be even appreciated more if you leave a comment and sentiment below. Thank you, and until the next time, love you.